Okay, so we're going to go ahead and talk about test 3, which covers parts of chapter 5. The first section are los artículos personales. What objects do you typically use to get ready in the morning? So you are going to look at this picture. It has different items that you use in the morning to get yourself ready, like a toothbrush or maybe you're using makeup or shaving cream. And then down below, what you're going to do is write what it is. So whatever number 1 is what you would put here. And number 2, whatever number 2 is what you would put here. Okay? And if you can't tell what it's pointing to, that's something that you can ask me during the test. And then remember that it says to include the definite article el or la in your answer. And I think that's very common in Spanish, that if you're not using a noun in a sentence where it would dictate you using a possessive adjective or an indefinite article, to put the definite article with it. Like they wouldn't just say toothbrush, they'd say the toothbrush. So that's why they like you to do that. Okay, then say again. Okay, the next part is vocabulary as well. It says las rutinas. What items do these people use in the morning? Complete each sentence with an appropriate word from the word bank. Be sure to use each word only once. So you'll read these sentences and you don't do anything to these words. You just plug in whichever word would best complete the sentence. Okay. Next, we have parts of your daily routine. You look carefully at each picture and select the phrase that best describes it. So these are your reflexive verbs, but you don't have to conjugate them. You're just identifying. So whatever it is that this boy is doing, you pick whether he's peinarse, acostarse, or bañarse. Okay, and you'll do that for each of these pictures. Then we've got a listening section. It says, Las mañanas de la familia Chávez. Listen to a description of one family's morning routine and decide whether each statement is cierto or falso. If the information is not given, select no se menciona. So for this one, I'll play the dialogue multiple times, probably like 2 or 3 times, and then you guys just decide whether the statements below are true, false, or not mentioned. Okay, here, conjugar verbos reflexivos, and here's where you also are going to want to know not just how to deal with your reflexive verbs and pronouns, but also what they mean, because you're going to have to plug in the reflexive verb and then you're going to have to conjugate it correctly. And remember that those reflexive pronouns can either go attached to an infinitive or in front of a conjugated verb. So in the bulk of these, you're probably going to have your reflexive pronoun in front. And remember that because with reflexive verbs, the subject is the same as the object, so the pronoun should match your subject. Does that make sense? Okay. Los quehaceres y los accesorios. This is more vocabulary, and there's not a word bank this time. There's just sentences. So for example, here it says, tengo que lavar los platos, uso el. So if you've got to wash the dishes, you're going to be using the dishwasher. So those are the things that you'll be plugging in here, and you'll notice that articles, because these are sentences, there's no need to put an article with the noun that you choose, because if it needed one, it's already been given. Okay. Here, lo máximo. Here we're doing your, this is superlatives. So you read these sentences and you decide which of these is the superlative that would best complete the sentence. Okay. Down here, ¿qué están haciendo? This is what we're going to talk about today as soon as we're done. This is present progressive. So I'm going to explain to you guys how to form the present progressive, and that's what you would be doing in this section. Here is a comparison. You've got a description of 3 different living spaces, and over here it tells how big it is and what amenities it has. And so down here, you're filling in what's missing because you're comparing So like here you're comparing la casa en las villas and un apartamento petunia, and they're talking about size. So if you look at la casa en las villas, it's bigger than apartamentos petunia. So that's what you would need to plug in. What words are missing so that this sentence reads that la casa en las villas is bigger than un apartamento petunia? Okay, does that make sense?
So that's the inequality and inequalities.
Yes, that's where, well, it could even be the same size because are the same. Because, like, for example, los condominios Buenavista tienen, we're comparing baños here. And here's an apartamento petunia. Apartamento petunia has dos baños, and los condominios Buenavista tienen dos baños. So here you're comparing, but you're not going to say that one has more than the others. You're trying to say that these condominiums have as many bathrooms as. So this is where you're doing comparisons, which could either be more, less, or as many as. Okay, again, another vocabulary section. You just will, says que desordenado. Rosa and her roommates Dora and Carla have been neglecting their chores for a couple of weeks and need to clean their apartment. Complete their conversation with the correct form of the logical verbs from the word bank. You may use each verb only once. Okay, so you will pick these verbs, plug them into the dialogue below, and you may at times need to conjugate them. Okay, here's, this is the last section. It's another present progressive where you'll read these sentences, you'll fill it in with the verb that best completes the sentence by turning it into the present progressive, which is what we're going to talk about right now. So are there any questions about test 3?